world we see is but a thin veil. Beneath this veil lies an entire universe of otherworldly beings, demons, spirits, werewolves, and other creatures that most people don't even suspect exist. A gray-haired elderly man in a security guard uniform was walking quickly among the graves towards the main gate, eager to finish his patrol and sit down with a cup of instant coffee in front of an old TV to watch his favorite series. A regular shift, everything as usual. In the far end of the cemetery, where the light from the lamps didn't reach, strange sounds were heard. It was as if someone was digging through the ground with their claws. The man froze. His breath caught, his hands trembled, and the flashlight fell to the concrete paths with a crash. The noise spread through the silence, making the guard's heart pound like crazy. The sound stopped. For a moment, everything froze. But behind that rustling, something broke through, smashing wooden crosses and rushing towards him. A non-human scream tore through the night, followed by the crunch of breaking bones. The silence of the old cemetery was disturbed, and a flock of half-asleep crows took to the night sky with loud cawing. In the past week, strange events had been happening at the cemetery. First, dug-up graves began to appear, with the deceased missing, and then several guards disappeared. Those who tried to investigate the occurrences were later found mutilated beyond recognition. The police responded to the crime scenes, but couldn't find any traces or evidence. A popular phone ringtone made me look away from the monitor. More than 2 months had passed since the last assignment, and during this time, my superiors hadn't bothered me. But now, my partner decided to take over for me. "What are you staring at? Pick up the phone. The boss doesn't like to wait." I picked up the smartphone and answered the call. "Good health to you." Hello, Jameson. Well, how's the rest going?" "Everything's fine," I replied, taking a sip of hot coffee. "Well, that's good. In short, there's a proposal to improve your leisure time," my boss said, and I heard the characteristic grinding of a lighter wheel. He lit a cigarette. "Well, let's get into details from this point. Come over, and you'll find out everything yourself," he mysteriously replied, and ended the call. So, here comes a new adventure. This thought erased all my plans for the upcoming weekend. Throwing on a jacket, I grabbed the keys and left the apartment. The street greeted me with coolness and dampness. I won't describe the ride through the evening capital. There's nothing unusual about it. Anyway, I reached our facility in about 40 minutes, turned off the engine, got out of the car, slammed the door, and headed towards an inconspicuous building. As usual, my boss was waiting for me at the main entrance, smoking a cigarette. "Good health to you," I said with a smile, extending my hand. "Well, hello, Jameson. You keep getting better and better," said the man in a strict suit, squinting slightly with a smirk. "Good job. Flexible hours, solid sleep. That's the whole secret." My smile widened. "Well, that's wonderful. Now, to business. Strange events have been occurring at cemeteries in one of the cities in our vast country. Corpses go missing, and some guards are found as if they've been chewed up. What do other police say?" As always, no traces, no evidence. The culprit couldn't be found hot on the trail, my boss replied, showing pictures from the crime scenes on his work tablet. The sight, to put it mildly, was not for the faint-hearted. The feeling was as if a tractor had run over them. Broken crosses, torn fences, and no tracks in this chaos? There can't be none. "Well, just go and figure it out. Report back when you're done," concluded my boss, closing the tablet. "Understood, Comrade General," I said briskly, shaking his hand. Already sitting in the car, I started pondering who could have caused this havoc. Clearly, it wasn't humans. Demons. Why the hell? Absolutely unclear. And what do you think? I asked my partner. The answer came without delay. For certain rituals, dead people are needed, and they don't necessarily have to be fresh. Some even dig up skeletons. For example, summoning higher-level demons requires the dead. He finished. Great. Just what I needed. Mysticism, I thought, turning into the courtyard. Don't rush. It seems to me that things are much more serious there than you might imagine. Do you think so? Let's say 50-50, my partner replied, interrupting the dialogue. After parking, I set the car alarm, went into the entrance hall, and climbed up to my floor. An exciting adventure awaited me, which I was immensely glad about because what I do is a calling, not a job. Therefore, I was prepared and focused. Clicking the lock, I entered the apartment, closed the door, turned on the light, boiled the kettle, and decided to brew some fresh tea. I was about to fly to one of the northern cities. This case was once under special control, so I cannot disclose the name of the region or the location of the settlements. Please understand and forgive me. With a mug of aromatic drink, I settled down at the laptop. All formalities were taken care of. Travel expenses would be credited to my electronic account. Thanks to my partner, I already knew the detailed map, including the surrounding villages. This knowledge significantly eased the operational activities and allowed me to handle everything with feeling and proper timing. After a little more scrolling through social media, I realized it was time to move to bed, which I promptly did. I woke up exactly 4 minutes before the alarm clock rang, did my exercises, drank coffee, and rushed to the airport. In high spirits, ahead lay a couple more hours of sleep, but the thought that awaited me was something extremely dangerous and unknown. Judging by the footage from the crime scenes, it was a thing with inhuman strength, capable of tearing anyone apart anywhere, which kept me anxious. So upon arrival, I had to stay alert. I arrived at the airport without incident. If anything, I waited a bit in traffic, and after that, everything proceeded as usual. I passed facial control and sat down in the plane. Sitting comfortably in the seat, I dozed off peacefully. I woke up, as if on command, 10 minutes before arrival. The city greeted me with gloomy coolness and drizzling sharp rain. In the morning, a usual car was waiting for me, with 2 operatives standing next to it. Ah, here comes the welcoming committee, I thought to myself as I approached the car. Good day, Major Jameson. Allow me to introduce myself, Captain Oliver. I shook his hand. Captain Grayson, said the second, extending his hand. Well, call me Jameson. That will suffice, I said. And yes, guys, let's agree right away. I'm not going to hassle you, but in return, don't get cocky either, and do everything as it should be, I said with a smile, settling into the back seat. Yes, as you say, Jameson, no questions. We're fed up with this situation ourselves, said Oliver, looking back at me. Well, that's great. So, boss, shall we go eat or head straight to the department? I suggested. Let's grab a bite. We can always make it to the department later. Right, we can always make it to the department later, agreed Grayson with a smile. Outside the windows, the smoke-shrouded grey town flashed by. Shop windows with faded signs, gloomy houses with peeling plaster. Everything looked somewhat bleak. Silhouettes of passers-by, blurred by the rain, seemed alien and faceless. So, how do you like it here? Asked Oliver, lighting a cigarette. It's rather gloomy somehow, I replied, continuing to gaze at the landscape outside the window. It's almost always like this here. Edge of the world. What else could you expect? Said Grayson, turning into a gray building with a bright but somehow flickering neon sign. Here we are. We always eat here. They serve decent food, and the prices are quite reasonable, said Oliver, getting out of the car. The street greeted us again with the same drizzling rain. The air smelled of soot and wet asphalt. Upon entering the building, I was pleasantly surprised. A cozy establishment with wooden tables and soft armchairs, dimmed lights, soft music. Everything here was conducive to relaxed conversation. After placing our order, we drank a little to get acquainted. Well, guys, official papers, dry reports, all that is good and well, but I'd like to hear the opinions of those working on the ground, I said, looking at the guys. The men exchanged glances, and one of them began. You know, Jameson, it all started rather strangely. First, bodies started disappearing from graves in one of the city cemeteries. In the morning, the shift arrives, and there are 2 graves dug up, coffins crushed to dust. Then, along with the bodies, the guards started disappearing too. The corpses never returned, but the men were found. Only they were like they had been chewed up, along with the bones. It was as if someone really gnawed on them and spat them out. We came here the first time. The sight was horrifying. Torn down fences, broken tombstones, toppled crosses, and no traces, no claw marks, no paw prints, nothing at all. We even asked border guards with a dog. Nothing. The dog just spins around, whining and sniffing the ground, and it seems like it wants to run away. In short, nothing worked out, but the higher-ups still demand we search however we can, added Oliver, lighting a cigarette. Yeah, as always, the higher-ups know best. Well, colleagues, now to the office, and tomorrow to the crime scenes. We'll see what's what, I said, rising from my chair. Yes, Jameson, you're a good guy. We wish we had a boss like you, replied Grayson, signaling the waitress. When we stepped outside, it had grown considerably dark. The dreary rain had ended, leaving behind a damp chill and a light fog. There was nothing interesting at the office. After communicating with local management and reviewing the case materials, it became clear to me that nothing was clear. No witnesses, no evidence, no suspects. And those who could have clarified the situation lay in pieces in the morgue and wouldn't tell anyone anything. Settling into the car, the guys obligingly drove me to my accommodations. Leaving me at the main entrance, they roared off into the distance, and I, lighting a cigarette, pondered what I would do with this assignment. I'll play it by ear, I thought, opening the hotel door. The interior, by the way, pleased me. The lobby was cozy and homely, in a way. Behind the counter stood a pleasant girl. After greeting her and confirming my passport details, I ascended to the room, which amazed me even more with its furnishings and cleanliness. Making myself comfortable on the bed, I took out my laptop. While browsing through the social media feed, I didn't notice how I dozed off. After some time, I was woken up by a sharp phone call. I'm listening. Hello, Jameson. It's Oliver. Sorry for waking you up. We've got a new body, the scene. An old closed cemetery beyond the city limits. In short, we're already on our way. We'll be there in 10 minutes. Quite a turn of events. All right, I'll wait for you. The morning chill hit my face, making me pull my head deeper into my collar. Lighting a cigarette, I inhaled the pungent smoke with pleasure, enjoying a brief respite while waiting for the guys. Silence reigned around. Somewhere in the distance, the motor of a car rumbled ominously. The guys arrived quickly. I didn't even have time to finish my cigarette. I got into the car, and we shook hands. "So, what's the situation?" "Hell if I know." The replacement came in the morning, and there was total horror. He immediately called the police, and from there, they contacted us. "So we can say we're pioneers, except for the replacement," replied Grayson. "Yeah, judging by the voice, the guy was pretty freaked out by what he saw," Oliver added with a grin, handing me coffee in a small paper cup. "Oh, thank you," I smiled, sipping the invigorating drink. "No problem," replied Grayson, lighting a cigarette. Outside the windows, the city was waking up. Lights flickered on and off in the gloomy buildings. Soon the gray concrete boxes gave way to well-kept houses in the private sector. Then the asphalt ended. A beaten, bumpy dirt road began, serving as the main street of the Dasha cooperative Voskod. The internal navigator indicated that we didn't have long to go. Indeed, after about 10 minutes, the old cemetery appeared. A police car stood at the gates. People were near it, discussing something in low voices. Getting out of the car, I headed straight towards them. "Good day, Major Jameson. What do we have here?" I introduced myself, pulling out my ID. The people by the car immediately straightened up, losing their relaxed demeanor. "Yuri, forensic expert," one of them replied, extending his hand. "Well, what can I say? The injuries were incompatible with life, but you'd better see for yourself." "All right, let's take a look," I said, waving my hand towards the guys, and walked toward the cemetery. Entering the cemetery grounds, I stopped dead in my tracks. It seemed as though a tornado had swept through the cemetery. Overturned crosses, torn wreaths, and shattered monuments. The air smelled of dampness and something musty, as if everything around had been rotting for years. I'd seen a lot in my career, but never anything like this. This place seemed to cry out that something abnormal, inexplicable, had occurred here. Of course, something otherworldly had fun here, you might say, and you'd be right. I walked among the torn-down fences. The body was found quickly, although it was hard to recognize a human being in the chewed-up piece of meat mixed with bones. I crouched down and placed my hand on the flesh wet with blood, guided by instinct. A bright flash before my eyes, like frames from a film reel, events from the previous evening. Night. The lanterns were burning, barely illuminating the old cemetery. An elderly man stood on the main alley, smoking a cigarette. Around him was a tomb-like silence, and suddenly, from the direction of the distant graves, a strange sound was heard. The man turned his head, listening, shining his flashlight towards the sound, and that was his fatal mistake. Towards the light of the flashlight, from the depths of the cemetery, breaking crosses, a creature smeared in black mud resembling a small gorilla rushed towards the man. What happened next, I will not describe, due to ethical and moral considerations. After its deed, the creature disappeared into the forest belt. I removed my hand, and the vision faded. There's a corpse eater in the city, I thought. Now that's a twist. Some strange crap, resembling a gorilla, eating corpses in old cemeteries of a godforsaken town. And where do we look for this monster, I wondered, surveying the area. Usually, such creatures live in desecrated places where there's a lot of filth and no people. In our case, it's the place where waste from the local morgue and sewage is dumped. I haven't yet ventured into filth after unclean beings. I headed towards the exit. The hardest part lay ahead. Tell the guys what we're dealing with. It won't be easy. So, Jameson, what interesting news do you have? Oliver said, looking at me. There's a lot, but that's for the road, I replied, sitting in the car. So, where are we heading? Grayson asked, settling into the front seat. To the morgue, gentlemen. We need to check something. If my suspicions are confirmed, we're in for an extremely interesting and difficult case, I promised with a smile. Wow, you sure know how to create intrigue, Oliver said, looking at me. Well, it's part of the job, I smiled. We continued driving in silence. The cold northern city, wrapped in smoke, had finally awakened. Past shop windows, worn by time, pedestrians scurried along chipped sidewalks. The drive wasn't long, so I gazed at the bleak urban landscape. As in all cities, and probably now not only in cities, but also in district centers, there were more cars than people. It was only comforting that they were still far from the capital's traffic jams. About 10 minutes later, we pulled up to a large gray building. So guys, stay put for now. I won't need you inside, I said, stepping out of the car. As you say, Oliver replied, lighting a cigarette. Climbing the concrete steps, I pulled the heavy metal door with the inscription Morgue and went inside. I immediately found myself in a well-lit corridor, tiled from top to bottom. The air carried the sharp smell of bleach, and underfoot, the linoleum squeaked slightly. On both sides were metal doors painted green. My steps echoed in the empty space, adding more gloom to the picture. A man in a dark green suit met me, coming out of one of the doors. Good day, and excuse me, who are you? He asked, approaching me. Good day, Major, from FBR, I replied, showing him my ID. You recently received bodies with fractures. May I take a look at them? No problem. Come with me, the man said, waving his hand. You know, all these biomaterials, excuse the expression, but I can't call them anything else. He started while we walked down the corridor. I've been here for over 20 years, but I've never seen anything like this. The bodies look like they were chewed up and spat out. Yes, that's correct, I confirmed. Are you aware that there are traces of human teeth on them? Not a wild animal, bear, or wolf, but a human. Only I assure you, people simply can't do something like this, he concluded, stopping in front of a door with a sign reading, Cold Chamber. Well, I'll take your findings into account in the report, I said, opening the door. I won't drag out the story of what I saw. I'll just say one thing. Exiting the morgue, I knew for sure. My worst fears were confirmed. We have big problems, and the guys need to understand what we're facing. Therefore, approaching the car, I decided to cut to the chase. So, what did you find out? Oliver asked, standing by the car. You know, guys, this is serious business, I began pensively, settling into the back seat. Without a bottle, we definitely won't figure it out. Wow, really? All right, let's go, slamming the door. So, what's going on? Grayson asked, turning to me. Well, Major here wants to tell us something, but he needs a drink for that, Oliver chuckled. Yeah, drinking we can always do, especially since it's lunchtime. Grayson smiled, turning the steering wheel. They were laughing now, but I knew they wouldn't be laughing much longer. During the entire drive, I thought about how best to tell them everything. Not just to tell, but to prepare them, because everything that's part of my job could shatter their lives, dividing it into before and after. We arrived at the cafe, where we had been yesterday, parked the car, and went inside. So, what important thing happened? Grayson asked, sitting down at the table and placing an order. I thoughtfully looked at them and slowly began. These aren't ordinary criminals. What do you mean? Oliver frowned. Literally, it's unclean. Pause. Oliver and Grayson exchanged glances. Have you already had a drink or something? Give us a couple shots and we'll be on the same wavelength. Grayson grinned. I understand it sounds like nonsense, but do you think an ordinary person could cause such a storm at the cemeteries? The guys fell silent. It was obvious they didn't know what to say. And another thing. All right, a storm. But corpses? Why would an ordinary person steal corpses? Right, Oliver muttered. So, gentlemen, this is unclean. I'm telling you with full responsibility. These creatures live in families and feed on corpses. Wow, this is some news. What do we do now? Oliver finally asked. Catch and kill. We have no other choice, I replied. And what are we supposed to fight them with? Should we carve stakes from aspen wood? Silver bullets and holy water weren't handed out at the station today. Grayson nervously chuckled. Jameson, are you serious? Where's the camera? Are you trying to prank us? If you don't believe me, that's your right. I leaned back against the chair. But I warn you, if it comes to a confrontation, don't interfere. Oliver flinched. All right, we understand. We'll help however we can, Oliver replied, slightly frowning. But think about it. It's the 21st century. What kind of unclean creatures? I smoked the cigarette and threw the butt into the ashtray. Guys, I warned you. If you mess around, you'll end up in black bags in the fridge in pieces. Oliver flinched. All right, we understand. No, you don't understand at all, I objected. All right, guys, we need to move. I got up from the chair. If we need to, then we need to, Grayson replied, slapping his knees. We silently got into the car, almost synchronously slamming the doors. So, where are we going? Where do we look for these monsters? Oliver asked, glancing at me. We need to go to the old part of the city. And why there? Nobody has lived there for about 10 years. Oliver was surprised. Ever since they started dumping the city's waste there, the people moved away. Oh yeah, there were 4 old men and 4 cripples living there, Grayson added. We need to go there because these creatures love such places. Maybe they like the smell, or maybe something else. We exchanged glances. Silence reigned around, interrupted only by the dull rumble of the car. So, guys, check your weapons right now and load the rounds into the barrels, I continued, clutching an old pistol in my hands. As soon as you see them, shoot immediately, preferably in the head. If they start breaking in, try to pursue them, but without fanaticism. This is for your own safety. They are extremely strong and very dangerous. Grayson frowned, checking the magazine. Corpse eaters. Interesting. Are they afraid of anything? They are, I nodded, looking intently at him. Of us, because we know about them and are going to kill them. And seriously, like all unclean beings, they dislike various religious items. Holy water, crosses. So be ready, guys, I concluded, taking the safety off the pistol. We were already close to our destination. Indeed, after a few hundred meters, a rusty sign with faded writing appeared, completely covered in rust and unreadable. We arrived, I said gloomily, looking out the window. Half-ruined houses with fallen roofs, broken fences. This place looked as if it had been forgotten not only by people, but also by God. All the houses we passed by seemed abandoned not 10 years ago, but 50. Only one house stood out amidst the ruins, its relatively well-maintained appearance. My inner voice hinted, That's where we need to go. Where are these creatures? Oliver looked at me questioningly. See that house? That's where we need to go, and without sudden movements. I warned, already realizing everything would go wrong as usual. We stopped 10 meters from the house to avoid drawing attention and quietly headed towards the gate. No one. Silence. Somewhere behind the house, a faint conversation between two men could be heard. We carefully walked along the uneven concrete path, trying to make as little noise as possible. The air was humid, smelling of dampness and decay. Approaching the window, we cautiously peeked inside. A typical house. 2 children at the table. The mother bustling around the stove. A typical housewife. However, her unnaturally pale skin and bluish circles under her eyes betrayed her sinister nature. Bending down as low as possible, I peeked around the corner and was stunned. Behind the house, calmly smoking a cigarette, stood a real devil. He was chatting with a bald, thin man who was picking up some bones with chunks of black meat into a bag with his hands. My heart pounded, and my hands became sticky with sweat. Holy crap! Am I dreaming? Are they trading gnawed bones here? And who's that clown? Oliver whispered, with just his lips, trying not to make noise. And at that very moment, the clown's eyes seemed to flash blue. A chill ran down my spine. That's no clown. My voice quivered, and my legs felt glued to the ground. Oliver, shoot the corpse eater. Grayson, the window, I commanded, drawing my pistol. The creatures rushed towards us. I immediately pulled the trigger. The shot knocked down what I initially thought was a clown, and he writhed in pain on the ground. Silver was doing its job. Another shot rang out nearby. I quickly turned around and realized that regular weapons weren't harming them. The infernal creation charged towards Grayson, transforming into its true form on the go. Probably he thought it wasn't happening to him, as the events were beyond his comprehension. Shoot! What the hell are you frozen for? I shouted, shooting at the corpse eater. Fully in control of my body, I didn't allow myself to miss. The creature collapsed to its knees, emitting a pungent, foul-smelling smoke. Jameson, thanks. I nearly had a heart attack when that thing attacked me, Grayson muttered. No problem. I warned you to be very careful, or you could end up headless. I didn't have time to finish my sentence when behind me came the sound of breaking glass. We turned around. Oliver got hit pretty hard by the window frame. He lay there, shocked by what was happening, watching as members of the family jumped out of the shattered window, one by one, revealing their true forms. I immediately rushed towards them, knocking down the housekeeper. Grayson, the children. Oliver, don't get up, I commanded, embedding a good chunk of pure silver into the nasty creature's head. Grayson rushed towards the vile beasts. They can't be left alive, I shouted. One of them knocked Grayson off his feet, but I managed to come to his aid just in time. 3 quick shots, and the beasts fell to the ground, starting to smolder slowly. Grayson, for God's sake, how many times will I have to save you? I muttered with a smile, helping him up. Oliver, how are you? He looked at me. Well, I think they broke my nose, but I'm alive, he replied. Jameson, you're a master. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have made it out of here, and I was just happy that the job was done. And thankfully, everyone stayed alive. After spending some time with the guys, I soon departed for the capital. It was decided to feed a plausible cover story to the local authorities. They didn't need to know the whole truth, but my superior wanted to know every detail. I stopped by an inconspicuous building. As always, My boss was waiting for me. Good health to you, Comrade General. The mission is complete. I extended my hand to him. Hello, Jameson. So, how did everything go? He asked, shaking my hand. Everything went according to plan, except the criminals were extraordinary. Corpse eaters. Have you heard of such? I reported, looking intently at the general. Yes, rarely. But I have encountered them, he nodded. Well, not only were they stealing and consuming corpses, but they were also trading gnawed bones. In the end, both sellers and buyers were eliminated, I said. Well, Jameson, you've done a good job. Now you can rest. There's still so much work ahead. Sighing with relief, I got behind the wheel and headed home.